This is DaviD TaL. This is the Balagan Connection. And this is going to be an update about what's going on in Israel, what's going on around Israel, and a couple of things I think that are important to connect to. We're going to be talking about some harsh things today, but I've been having a hard time. My soul has been kind of torn up. I should be there on the front line. Everything that I am and everything that I know says that I should be there on the front line. The fact that I'm not is really giving me a hard time. I know that God brought me here to do this and other things. I've been speaking in churches and other places. So if you hear about a church who wants me to speak and explain what's going on and doing a lot of questions and answers, that would be great. But I've been having a long time, and a verse came across my feed today, and I thought I would share this with you so this connects more than anything. Because I know who is going to win at the end of this. I know what the final result is going to be, as hard as it is right now. And the reason I know it is because this book has promised in the most exact and accurate way what's going to happen. And I'm going to read from Isaiah chapter 31. And this is verse 5 that says this. Like birds flying around, so will the Lord of hosts himself defend Jerusalem. Defending, he will also deliver it. Passing over, he will preserve it. And I know that God himself is defending Jerusalem and Israel. He will deliver, he will preserve, and he will pass over. The angel of death is going to pass over again. So I know that's the final result. But a lot of things are happening on the way, and let's see if I can kind of connect to what's going on. You've probably heard there's been a ceasefire, and that was on one hand supposed to allow the Hamas to reorganize, and the Hamas were releasing hostages as part of the ceasefire. The ceasefire is going on for about 7 days, and the idea was they would release hostages, and we wouldn't shoot, and we wouldn't kind of continue the war, and we would release prisoners. Now, the fact that you put hostages and Israeli hostages and Palestinian hostages on the same is something horrific. The moral equivalency that I've been hearing on CNN, I mean, MSNBC, that a 4-year-old baby that was taken out of her bed, okay, is morally equivalent to a 14-year-old child who stabbed 2 people. Or a 25-year-old school teacher is morally equivalent to a lady who planned and actually pulled off a terrorist bomb that killed 16 people. I mean, that moral equivalency makes my blood kind of shiver every time it's pulled off. And not enough people are saying that's crazy. But the Hamas has released about 110 hostages, mostly women and children. And Israel has released altogether about 250 Palestinians. During the release, there was no firing. They made a big issue about us not putting any planes in the air, but they broke the ceasefire. And as a result of that, the fire has continued. 110 rockets have been fired into Israel, a lot of them this evening. And Israel is going back on the war footing. That is a little bit about what's going on. A couple of words about what that looks like and how that is, because I've been in urban warfare in a couple of places. So what you're going to have is probably Israel moving into, the Israeli forces moving into a neighborhood, the Palestinians coming up from tunnels that are under the ground, firing anti-tank munitions. Usually we would kind of react to that, and we would kind of move a little bit forward. And if some of the fighting became too fierce, we would just bring in air assets and take that down and slowly move. Every time we find a tunnel, we go down, we check what's going on, we seal it off, and that's the situation that's going on. And last, I think some like 6,000 or 7,000 of the Hamas fighters have been killed in that. We have lost almost 150 soldiers in the whole thing. So that is the fighting going on. It's going to get hard. And I need you to kind of have this in mind. We're going into winter, and those soldiers, and there's nothing more terrible than being in a combat situation with pouring down rain and cold and everything going on. And that's the situation on the ground right now. Israel has said that it is going to take out Hamas. We don't have a fight against the Palestinians, but we cannot live with a terrorist organization on the other side of the border that says we will do something like this to you again and again as long as we can. Side note, I think it's really, really important, and I've been hearing this, and I'm kind of having a problem with this. The Hamas doesn't want a two-state solution. The Hamas has a problem. They say they have a problem with the occupation. But the occupation the Hamas has is not with where Israel is and where the Palestinians have a country. The occupation that the Hamas has, and the Arab world, it turns out, has, with the existence of the State of Israel. Any piece of stone that Israel is in control of between the river and the sea is seen as occupation. And when you ask them that, that's what they mean. And what I'm trying to say is it's not a war about borders. It's not a war about political situations. It's a war about existence. And it's not about their existence because we could have wiped the Hamas, the Palestinians off the map many times. It's a war about our existence. And that's what they're saying. So I need to make that clear because I'm hearing more and more on the news and more people saying it's all about the occupation and we want Palestine to be free. Palestine was free. There was nobody in Gaza since 2006. The Palestinian Authority is in control of the West Bank, of 98% of the West Bank, 98% of the Palestinians in the West Bank. And so there's no freedom for Gaza. They have freedom. They've been offered a country again and again. That's not the issue. And when you press on them, they say it. We want to destroy Israel. And by the way, it turns out it's not only the Palestinians, it turns out the whole Arab world. And I think a poll that was actually published a while ago, 78% of the Muslim Arabs in the Middle East believe that what Hamas did was right. So you have a mindset where 78% of the people believe it's okay to kill babies and rape women. And this is much, much deeper than a lot of people really think. So far, the Hezbollah has stayed out of this war. The Hezbollah is the northern border, the pro-Iranian proxy on the north. And so far, this whole war in Gaza, as opposed to what we thought a couple of weeks ago, has been contained as of now inside this area between Gaza and Israel. It hasn't spread out to a full-out Middle East war. It could. Hezbollah, Iran. Later on, America gets into this. Later on, Russia gets into this, and China. And we could still be looking at a revelation-type scenario. But so far, that hasn't happened. The only thing that is kind of getting a little bit heated up is the Houthis, who are another Iranian proxy that's on the other side of Saudi Arabia, has been firing long-range missiles, some of them pretty massive. We've managed to take out all of those missiles, but God forbid if one of those missiles hits a school in Eilat, we would have another front opened. Just so you know, a building exploded, a missile warehouse exploded in Sena in Yemen, which is the headquarters of the Houthi. It turns out that it was hit by a long-range missile that did get through, and I think it was Israel sending a, knock on the door, just to make sure that they know what's going on. The war on the ground is fierce, and there's one thing I need you to understand. We got 110 hostages out, but there's still 140, 130 hostages still inside. And that is a horrific situation for all of us. Israel is going to go into the southern part of Gaza to take out, or to find the hostages and to take out the Hamas leadership. It's not going to be a clean war, and it's not going to be a bloodless battle. And the enemy is victimizing the other side. By the way, a quick note, something I found very interesting. When somebody talks about the poor Palestinians and how they're victims and how Israel is oppressing them, look into their, it's interesting, look into their Twitter account or their Instagram, see what they said on the 7th of October or on the 8th of October. And when you see the celebration that they had for the great Hamas fighters and the great Palestinian warriors who were taking Israel on, you know which side of this they're on. And I have to say, we're going to be going into Hanukkah in a couple of days. In Hanukkah, we celebrate the Greeks who tried to wipe us out, and we fought against them and persevered. We're going to persevere here. We're not surprised, though, that people want to wipe us out. But the anti-Semitism that has actually grown up out of this, out of the woodwork, hundreds of thousands of people, yelling death to Israel. I mean, something has happened. And again, we're Jewish. We know. We're not surprised. We are surprised that rational people buy into the lie. We are surprised that stupid idiots that have been in university studying the wrong things for too many years are using this as a way to, how do you say, pull out their teenage rebellion or to kind of show that they are virtue signaling how great they are by turning these Palestinians into victims and supporting a cause that would put them and throw them off a roof if they ever did end up in Gaza, which is crazy for us. But I want to say something else that I think is really important. Too many of our friends, the people that we thought understood, have been silent over what's going on. And that silence speaks a lot to us because we know that Christianity has not always seen Jews in the right light. And in fact, parts of Christianity have even replaced the role of the Jews in the Bible, in this Bible that me and you read, okay, with something else called replacement theology, and then you kind of disassociate the Jews from the Holy Land. There's a whole story in that in itself. But what I'm trying to say is the people that we do respect and love, in many cases, some of the people are not using their voice to stand for Israel. Now, they're not saying anything against, but a lot of them are being very, very silent for all kinds of reasons that I don't want to go into. I'm trying to say is that right now, God's chosen people need you to stand for Israel. Need you to spread the truth. Need you to share the truth, to fight the lies. Need you to stand up and say, I do believe that Israel has a right to be in this land. Need you to stand up to say, I know Israelis. I know David. I've been on his bus. I know who he is. He's an officer in the army. It doesn't make sense that he would genocide the Palestinians. I mean, I need people to stand up and say, this doesn't make sense. And I think this is really important, and I think this is my message to you today. Spread the truth. Just like the deceiver uses the social media to spread the lies, use the social media to spread the truth. There are truths out there, the Balagan connection, I've been putting out things, a lot of other people have been putting out things, kind of connect to that and see how much you can influence your little environment to actually spread the right and the truth of what's going on. Pray for us. Pray for the hostages that are in Gaza still. Pray for their families. Pray for the soldiers that are in Gaza and their families. Pray for our leadership that has to make decisions and everything that's going on. Pray for the support. Pray for your leadership who has to make decisions. Pray for the Palestinian victims that are being used by this terrible death cult to pull off one of the most horrific crimes against humanity that have been pulled off in the modern period. And like we said before, we know who's going to end, how this is going to end. But along the way, please pray for the peace of Jerusalem. We need your support and we need your prayer. The Balagan connection on the different channels. If you do want to support a little bit more substantially or directly, I'm connected to an organization called Gihon Springs. You can find the link underneath. Gihon Springs actually sending out money from different people in the United States to Christian ministries in Israel, including Netiva and other Christian ministries. Netiva is doing amazing work among the soldiers in Israel because I just talked to my brother. He's the director of Netiva. One of the things that they found that they're doing a lot of is they're sending out dry socks and dry underwear to the soldiers on the front line because being in the rain is terrible and you don't have washing machines and you need socks and you need underwear. And they've been kind of buying up huge amounts and quantities. They've been helping with other pieces of information. And when they do go out to a unit to talk to soldiers, they also minister and pray with them. So if you want to go into something good, substantial or real, check out Gihon Springs. That'll work. And just pray for us. Pray for at the end of this, it will be over. This is DaviD TaL. This is the Balagan Connection. Hope to see you soon.